All right, good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, August 26th. I'm going to call tonight's meeting of the planning board to order at 5:32 p.m. The first order of business is approval of minutes. The minutes were circulated by Gwen just a couple of weeks ago. And guess what I would say is nobody has sent in any corrections to Gwen since the date they were circulated. So, do I hear any corrections to the minutes? If everyone can find it, I can share screen if that would be helpful. Otherwise, if people are comfortable, they've looked at the minutes and they're good, then it'd be wonderful if somebody would move to approve the minutes as circulated.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as circulated.
Motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. So Mike has made the motion and Laura seconded the motion. None of our members are online at this point, so we have to do a roll call vote when we're all physically present. So all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Well, all right, motion passes 4-0. All right, minutes have been approved. So your next action, Gwen, is to take a clean copy of the minutes.
Okay.
Remove any draft watermark that may be present. And send that final copy in PDF format to agenda@whately.org so it can be publicly posted.
Sorry, so send minutes to. Okay.
Very good, thank you, awesome, okay. Next item of business has to do with reviewing. I'm gonna share this screen share here. Reviewing the A&R application form and review process, because something transpired related to this since our last meeting. So give me a moment to just share. Oh, sorry. I didn't give myself on that laptop permission. Share. So what I'm sharing is a newly revised. And I can make that a little bit bigger so everybody can see. It's newly revised A&R. Basically, the summary is Pete and Rusty and I were talking about the process for handling A&R submissions from residents. We looked at the form and Pete became a bit concerned about, let's just say, an inconsistency with state law in the process as articulated on the form. And that seemed like an opportunity. So he made some revisions. We're going to have a motion. I'm going to review this form and describe the nature of the revisions and make sure we all understand this process. And then we'll somewhat post hoc have a motion to approve this application form, okay? So most of this really relates to the notion of how an A&R application package is received. Right, there was inconsistent language on the old form about how the board might receive it. And it must go to the town clerk, right? People cannot just walk in here and drop off stuff and we receive it, right? It has to get formally received by the town clerk, and a complete package needs to be received by the town clerk, and then a clock starts ticking. And gonna highlight this last paragraph in this revised one and just talk about it. Because it says that the board. The board has 21 days from the date of submission to review the plan. The submission date is based on a complete plan submittal. Any application that is submitted that is incomplete will not be deemed submitted. If the planning board does not act within that 21-day time frame, the plan will be effectively determined not to require approval, and the town clerk will endorse it as such. And this is the issue here is state law requires this 21-day clock. And there's just, this is not under our control.
We don't.
There is a scenario in which tomorrow, somebody goes to the town clerk and drops off a complete A&R application form, everything required. And now the understanding is that if that were to happen, or anytime that happens before, when we're not around, Rusty and the town clerk, there's an agreement now that there will be prompt notification that the materials have been received. These materials will be scanned and circulated to us, so we have a chance to review them. But there is this scenario in which something arrives tomorrow and 21 days would elapse before our next regularly scheduled planning. And we may not want to just simply say, okay, then we're just gonna let it go and let it be approved. We might end up in these scenarios, have to scramble to get a quorum to do an ad hoc meeting just to deal with an A&R. Hopefully this doesn't happen. There was language in the forum before that we were trying to give ourselves latitude, that we would have some control over this process and when the clock starts ticking, but the state law says otherwise. All right?
Brent,
Yes.
is Rusty going to determine that the plan itself is complete?
Rusty is
Can I
charged.
step in?
And with the chairs.
This is,
So I understand, but this is dictated by state law. So,
at the time that the application is complete, and that is at the point that the plan is complete.
but the
And that
issue is
is
state law, as I'm told you,
Well,
it's
okay,
not
but-
like the planning board has the luxury of waiting until a regular meeting to decide that a complete application has been submitted.
Well,
So it really is up to the town clerk and town staff to make the determination that all required documents have
it's
been
not
submitted.
whether the documents have been submitted, it's whether the documents are complete.
Yes,
And the
well,
plan is very complicated. And it's always been in the planning board's determination that that's the case. So if you want to meet to determine that, but I think it's. The only reason a planning board can deny an application is because it's not complete. So if Rusty is determining,
or if it can fail to meet all the other requirements for A&R. It can be a complete package. It can meet all the technical requirements for submission, the required fee and all of that. But
Yeah,
the
but
review checklist may demonstrate that it cannot be endorsed.
well,
So those are two separate matters.
okay, I hope Rusty gets some training.
That is what has
Anyway, he
been.
wanted to speak and I
Go
don't
ahead.
need to disparage his.
Rusty, I'll
Technical skills.
give you the floor about this.
Yeah, I'd love to just describe what the process will look like in office. I think that might help people better understand what this looks like. But essentially, if somebody comes in with an A&R, my job is to look at the packet. I have the list and I have reviewed what is required with an A&R. We need the Mylar plan. It has to be done to the standard requirements for those plans. So my job is to check to make sure that all of the items are physically present and that with a decent eyeball, they look like they are up to par. That's when I will give it to the town clerk. I'll say all of the appendices that need to be here are here. The Mylar plan is here. To the specifications that are written in our bylaws and our subdivision regulations. And then I give it to Amy, our town clerk, and she is going to stamp it. We have an official town clerk date stamp. At that point, I'm going to scan it and I'm going to send it to the planning board and to the planning board admin account. So Gwen and I think Brant is the one who checks the planning board account. And then from there, it will be circulated to everybody else. And that's when scheduling and setting an agenda for one of these, within 21 days meetings, that's when those things would take place. And so I agree with Brant's assertion that I am just checking to make sure that everything is there. It is still a possibility that it gets to the board and, it is not endorsed.
Very good. So that's the process. So kind of be on the lookout for this kind of scenario to occur. And it could very well be that if we have enough time within 21 days to our next regularly scheduled meeting, that would end up on the agenda, but we may all need to do some review.
Just a little aside for this.
Sure.
I just applied yesterday in East Hampton to the East Hampton Planning Board, Planning Department about the setback issue that we've got over there, because they had planning and zoning in one department.
Yeah.
And I had to bring my thing up to the town clerk of East Hampton, and she stamped it, and they had 65 days to act on it.
Okay.
So 65 days in East Hampton and 21 days to wait. Granted.
Presumably
this is
that's
an
not an
A&R.
A&Rs are different. They are different. They are,
I get it.
they're the subdivision regulations.
Okay,
And it's not even our subdivision regulations, it's the state subdivision control act that sets this 21-day clock. So believe me all, I was looking for every angle and let's just say, Pete and I had some words.
we need to start voting for better politicians.
But this
This is
is,
the whole like advertising thing with the newspaper blows my mind.
well, so. Do we have any questions about this is essentially what drove the revisions to the form. We removed a bit of the first page where there was signing and dating of when the planning board received the application, because that's no longer relevant. It's when the clerk receives this as assessed by trustee. Okay. So there are no questions. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the revised A&R Form A.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised A&R Form A.
Okay.
Second.
Sounds like we don't have much choice with the
We
state law,
do
so
not.
what are you gonna do, right?
We've just basically revised the form to be consistent with what state law tells us we must do. Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Well, you could still vote.
Reluctantly.
Problem, all right, so unanimous 4-0. Okay, great, all right, thank you for that. Okay. Now, next item of business is discussing the prohibition on battery energy storage systems in the Aquifer Township overlay district. So, before we kind of get into the substance of that conversation, just a couple of notes. I have not received any town council feedback. Town council was supposed to provide feedback yesterday. Town council seems to not have provided any feedback on anything related to battery energy storage systems. So I don't think that's particularly germane to this agenda topic, but seems like a good time to just put that out there. Now,
While everybody's venting.
was that?
While everybody's venting.
Yes, well, everyone's. So now Pete and I were talking about the window and the timeline for getting something, anything like this, before we even discuss whether we're gonna do it, what it would be, all of that, let's just talk timelines. The select board meets tomorrow, and it's only tomorrow when they're going to determine the date of the fall special town meeting. Pete's best guess was that it was now likely to be early November. That was at one point, then it was gonna be in October, then, yeah, it's been bouncing around, but we still do not know until the select board acts tomorrow. Were it to be early November, according to Pete, started to do the calendar math. All articles that would go into special town meeting would have to be in their final form and to the select board by the select board meeting scheduled on September 24th. Right, because the select board needs to review and approve all articles that would go into the special town meeting warrant. And then the warrant would close on the 8th of October. So a little bit after that, allowing some time for some corrections, but basically anything we might want to get onto the warrant would have to be to the select board by September 24th, right? Now, there is this narrow window where we could do that, and I'll lay that out for you. And then we can decide whether what we're gonna do. If we were able tonight to agree that we could have a quorum of members present to hold a public hearing. We could hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 17th. Which is just a few days before, so let me kind of work you through the calendar math of why September 17th. And it could shift a little bit by a day or two. But let's put a temporary stake in the ground for September 17th. To have a public hearing on a bylaw to go into special town meeting. We would have to hold a public hearing, we have to have, thank you JD for early venting about this. We have to have legal notices in a newspaper of record 2 weeks prior. It has appeared twice. It would have to appear on Tuesday, September 2nd, this coming Tuesday, day after Labor Day would be the first appearance of the legal ad. Meaning we'd have to have a legal ad all ready to go, but, all right, but we have to appear on the 2nd of September, and we have to appear a week later on the 9th of September. Those are 2 Tuesdays. Because you have to have 14 days before the public hearing. So it'd have to be, the 17th would be the earliest we can hold a public hearing if the first notice went out into the ad on the 2nd of September. Nothing before the 2nd of September is going to be humanly possible, let me assure you.
Right, before we go down this road.
Yes,
The select board's Wednesday, August 13th meeting. On their agenda under special town meeting to discuss the policy of general and zoning bylaw amendment inclusion in special town meeting.
let me come back to, I will come back.
Okay,
The short answer is they'll let this go.
Okay.
To special town.
all right, I don't want to waste our time if.
No, sorry, thank you, I probably should have,
Established a policy that any zoning bylaw dealing with health and safety and state laws.
That's what they said?
Yeah.
Okay,
he said that they would be open to letting best related bylaws
Okay.
into the special town meeting warrant, if we felt we wanted to do that.
There's another bylaw that is correcting host agreements, I think, Rosie, right? For marijuana host agreements for a state law, so.
So yes, so it is, the select board would be willing to let something related to best on the special town meeting.
that's what they said.
So we would have to get an ad on the 2nd and the 9th, have a public hearing around the 17th. Presumably approve, I mean, if we liked it and approved it, we'd have to approve it and pretty quickly put together a short report to the select board. Probably same night, at least draft the talking points, maybe not the final language, because we need to give the warrant article. And, you know, and then there's some waving of hands around town council review. But we don't have to, Pete says I don't have to worry about that in terms of getting something to the select board by September 24th. So we have this narrowest of windows, and according to the Greenfield Reporter, if we want to get an ad into the paper this coming Tuesday, the final ad has to be given to them tomorrow by 3 p.m. because of the whole Labor Day holiday weekend.
Then Friday by 9.
No. You didn't look at the latest newspaper about Labor Day and their timelines.
And it said Labor Day.
Can I, for appearance on September 2nd, I looked it up. If we want, I will go there. Field reporter. Actually, tell you what, Rusty, are you able to?
I'll go get the.
I will get an answer.
Oh, yeah, or actually, there's a physical copy here in town offices. I was
Well,
looking,
nothing the recorder prints is true, so I would look online as well.
I looked at it online, I get.
It's probably wrong in their own paper, so I would trust what you found over what she's gonna bring in paper.
Okay. So I was looking at the special, I was looking at the special deadlines for Labor Day. Look on the page where legal ads are. Per day legal deadlines. Publication date for Tuesday, September 2nd is 8:29 at 9 a.m. So this is different than what I saw online. So that's actually pretty confusing. Rusty, can you check Greenfield Reporter online? 'Cause
Yes, I'm looking right now.
Well, I would think you could go with that if that's what it says they're printing.
Yeah, that is confusing. All right.
Either way, not a lot of time.
The page here is
Rusty,
B5, Rusty.
yeah, so see if you find the page, the online section with legal ads.
Go to the E edition.
Yeah. Okay, so it could be, that would be better.
No, that just means.
So 8:29. Potentially at 8:29, this says 9 a.m. Okay, anyway, so somewhere in the range of tomorrow at 3 p.m. to Thursday at 9 a.m. All right. So question, who would be able to attend a public hearing if we had it on Wednesday, September 17th? Looking at the calendars, can we have a quorum?
I could do the 17th, but not, I do the 17th or 18th, not the 19th.
I guess I'll make it work somehow.
Yeah, same.
What's same?
We can make it work.
You could make it work.
Yeah,
All right, we only have 4 members present here tonight, so we don't know about Patty's availability. So tentatively, we could have at least 3 members present. I could make it. All right, so that's the scenario that we're working on. So now we can turn then to the substance of the topic. All right. So Judy has circulated a proposal and I'm going to put that up. However, I'm going to propose an amendment to it that I want to explain. Also, fortunately, Pete can't be here. Today is his like one special vacation day. Didn't want to, okay. So now we're on this topic of, the prohibiting this in the, aquifer protection district. I'll say. Oh, maybe what I wanna do this now. This will be necessary for this particular.
Did you email that to us?
Judy circulated it to the entire board.
Yes.
I have not circulated what you see with the red strikeout is not what Judy, it is not,
What I submitted is the red on the top without,
yeah, what you
That's right.
submitted is battery energy storage systems, except on-site backup systems for residential and commercial use. The part that I've struck out. Okay. So.
It's on 812. I'm sure it doesn't.
So I'm proposing an amendment. So in general, I'm still relatively unconvinced about the urgency of action. However, I'm a stakeholder. I live in East Whately. I'm a stakeholder in our aquifers and the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. So I'm open to the idea of a limited going ahead on this tight timeline with this limited change, taking it to a public hearing. I've spoken to Pete, however. And he felt that using relatively vague and undefined language like on-site backup systems for residential and commercial use was not a good idea. That he said doing it based on energy capacity is something very rigorous. There are challenges like, well, could a 5 megawatt BESS that's used by a big company to do backup, could that sort of slide in there under that? So Pete had enough, again, I would rather,
that's
Not
why it says
the-
on site.
uh,
We haven't discussed mine.
I- so Judy, I do respectfully ask that you allow some,
Yes, sir.
like me to recognize speakers. I will absolutely give you your time to speak. So I'm taking the position, saying, I'm open to doing this. I'm giving you what I unfortunately can only say is hearsay. Because Pete can't be here to tell you this himself. But he felt that this was, the original proposed language was not wise. And that a specific threshold would be the better option. Unfortunately for us, this opens up a bit of can of worms about what that threshold should be. Which would really be coming up if we, in the next topic. And so I'm going to try to be very brief about why I'm suggesting a threshold of 300 kilowatt hours. Reminding myself and others that we need to keep kilowatt hours and megawatt hours straight. I've looked at a lot of different bylaws, and I think hopefully all of you have had a chance to look at a number of different bylaws in the intervening weeks. My big takeaway is that cities and towns that have done best regulations are all over the map in terms of the thresholds they use. Medway basically says 1 megawatt, 1,000 kilowatt hours is allowed anywhere in Medway by right, with some light administrative review. So they set the threshold quite high. Shelburne, still going through PG approval, sets a threshold at 250. Not quite clear where that is. There are others that are
250 kilowatt.
250 kilowatt hours. Another, I've seen Amherst is noodling around 150 kilowatt hours. What we do know as a matter of is that the NFPA 855 standard has an important dividing line at 600 kilowatt hours. But I can't find good rationales for picking a threshold. I've looked at the fact that a Ford F-150 Lightning Pro truck has an energy storage capacity of 120-ish kilowatt hours and advertises being usable as residential backup storage. A Tesla has a storage threshold of 85 kilowatt hours and also advertises that it uses residential battery storage. Just, I'm picking numbers because I've been struggling with doing some data-driven assessment of risk and where our thresholds ought to be. I circulated to all of you some research I did about containerized battery storage. So again, when I think a lot of the battery storage alarm concerns are driven by stories about utility scale battery storage facilities that are typically 100 megawatts or more. Not 600 kilowatt hours, not 250 kilowatt hours, not 30 kilowatt hours, not like 12 and a half in my own home. Okay. So I thought in my head to try to find a place, like we all have to look at this through a risk tolerance. And I thought, well, whatever could go in a 20-foot storage container is probably within the realm of, I could live with that in the Aquifer Protection District. But my research, and I cannot tell you, I've thoroughly looked at containerized BESS. All I know is I'm seeing numbers for containerized BESS ranging from about 300 kilowatt hours to about 1.5 megawatts, meaning that in using today's technology, that's about what you can fit in a 20-foot standard shipping container. Now, those numbers are only going to get bigger over time, right? Technology is going to improve.
It's gonna have to, because what they have right now is asinine as a builder. Putting in battery storage backup in our electric homes, they don't have enough power and batteries to run the homes.
Yeah.
So we're putting batteries in for all electric houses, and they're camping in their houses because they won't leave the houses. They do not generate enough.
Well, we can have a separate conversation now with,
So they're gonna have to do something because.
but yes, so that is changing it. So like I said, I've just been trying to think about this, to where to put this threshold. So basically Pete's guidance is put a number there, do it this way. Use, and then because it would be a threshold as aggregate energy storage capacity, let's put in that definition as part of it. So I pulled that definition straight from the Medway bylaw. Well,
Well, I was just thinking, maybe you could have a threshold, but then when it comes to a certain point, over discussion and review by the committee. You could do it like that, since it's like, you can have it to a safe point of like, a house can have,
so,
and then have it over
And then have a
review.
special.
In most special, yeah, to over review.
well, yes,
And then you
there's a
can
whole
either
separate,
define it.
again, the battery
Yeah.
storage bylaw deals with special
Yeah.
permitting and all of that. Right
Yeah.
now, we're trying on this narrow window to see if we can come up with a simple consensus amongst us. And consensus doesn't mean unanimous agreement, right? What could we all live with
Mhm.
as a threshold? And why I threw out numbers like 85K for Teslas and 120s for Ford Lightnings is to just try to make it a little more real. Like,
Yeah.
how threatened do you feel by somebody parking their
Well-
F-150 Lightning overnight?
But that's what I'm saying, like, have it available for Teslas, you know, and then.
We
if it goes
cannot
past-
regulate, zoning doesn't apply to EVs, so.
So if they had a storage and a lightning, it doesn't.
Cause that's what I
Doesn't
was
matter.
wondering, what if they have, a family with 3 drivers, they each have an electric vehicle,
Well, this
or
is
maybe
not-
now. prohibiting them from parking in the garage,
This is
you
a
know?
good way to think about risk, like.
Yeah.
If somebody has one Tesla and two F-150 Lightnings or the next generation that has even, you know,
Right.
how concerned are we that these things are going to destroy our way of life and
Right.
poison our aquifers because of whatever? So I'm trying to play with these numbers, and I ended up just basically saying, well, once it hits in today's technology, for me, and this is, I wanna tell you where this number came from, and then I wanna have a conversation about other numbers. But to me, it was like, once we get into the level that would fit in a storage container, which to me is right around 300 kilowatt hours. Then maybe I don't want that in the aquifer protection district. That couple of Ford 150 Lightnings together, that's 250. And a Tesla, you know, you're starting to get over 300. I mean, right,
The likelihood that someone's gonna have that many is
Right,
very small.
Right.
that's right.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just trying to, so. Before I open it to other members of the public, what are other members of the boards thinking about a number? Or do you have any other comments about what we're trying to do?
I like putting a number on it, sorry.
Yeah, I have no problem with the 300. 1 megawatt to me sounds fine too, because I don't see anyone. Wanting to put any commercial style thing. Being less than that, or even that for that matter.
I
So,
think it's fair to say that, well, and I also circulated some information about the new state law. Which basically is all but going to take this out of our hands once you hit 100 megawatt hours.
Right.
And probably as a consequence or unintended or not, any Nexamp like company going around, they're gonna say, well, if I can go to the Energy Facility Siting Board, I'm gonna make sure I'm proposing at least 100 megawatts. So probably for zoning, we're worrying about, we're probably most of this, in my opinion, is gonna be theater, but hey, if people sleep better at night, I can live with that.
I mean, I could see it, somebody, like to JD's point, somebody builds a new house, right? They have some money, they put a container, an inconspicuous container in the backyard. Full of batteries with some solar panels and it's powering their house or whatever. I could see that being a possibility. I don't know.
I can tell you personally, my average, I have an almost all electric house.
Yeah.
I do have battery storage. My average daily use is 30 kilowatt hours.
Okay.
so
In 2022, I bought as much as I could afford of battery storage, 12 and a half, only a third of my daily use. Indeed, I can't run my whole house for 20, well, under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
But today, I could buy 30 kilowatt hours of battery storage for less than what I paid in 2022. And with my solar panels, run my entire house, right? Again, these are little numbers, we don't care about this. And a threshold like 300 clearly lets residential stuff go. It's consistent
it's
with,
more than enough for an average home.
Right.
For a while. To run for a few days.
yes, if I could have 100 kilowatt hours
You'd be-
in my house, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
then I've got several days, you know, of major grid outage and I'm really resilient. But even one day at 30, but 300, I know, if I could ever afford that, it would be, right? Okay. So I'm hearing that, I heard
300 is fine with me.
300 is
Yes.
fine on the
Yep.
low end. I can't necessarily see any. You know, again, I have certain overarching concerns about overregulation. I have a feeling that something like this in the Aquifer Protection District will fly past the Attorney General's office, given that we've seen 250 level thresholds, that sort of thing.
Given the,
Yep, so anyone else from the board before I open it?
I still go back to my comments meetings and meetings ago that this whole thing is better left to the CMRCID building inspector, the electrical inspector and fire service.
So if it were you, would
Because-
you,
Because they are much quicker to adapt codes and the rules to the technology that changes daily, weekly, monthly than we are at the planning board. So
So-
what we approve today is gonna be obsolete in 6 months.
But can we defer to them? Like, do they already have a law for this that we can just say we adopt?
They update
They're-
code reviews constantly.
But it's not, but
I'm letting the state building code, electric
Sure.
code, fire code manage this.
but is that code that you're referencing residential code versus,
There's residential and commercial.
okay,
And
cause
the rules are different for each.
right,
And the exposures and the requirements and setbacks, and all that stuff is different for each.
okay,
And it changes.
And it changes daily.
Right.
They update it. They meet once a month
'Cause-
or greater, and they make all their adjustments.
right. My concern would be that whatever their setbacks are, is potentially not going to align with what we would prefer to see in our town, or what residents would prefer to see, right? Like, we're here to be the voice of the people.
we
for
are,
lack of
we are,
better
we
term.
are, however, I think philosophically trying to strike reasonable balances.
Right,
The goal here is not to regulate as strictly as the law will allow out of fear and ignorance.
no,
right?
I agree.
We can't regulate stronger.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm saying like, I guess like, I don't, not to be NIMBY, but like, I don't want this in my backyard. I think there's certain places of town where it's more applicable, like, I don't have a fire hydrant near my house. If there's a fire, one of these is behind my house and there's a fire, good luck, kiss the whole neighborhood goodbye,
It's true.
you know? So I think there's certain areas, and maybe that's built into the code, that you have to have ample access to a public water supply in the event of a fire, and that would eliminate my concerns anyway, you know what I mean? But I don't know, I guess, enough about the codes to know if that's how they're written or not.
So that if I heard, if I just can. For the, sort of for the minutes, if I hear you correctly, JD, you're saying that you would. Well, let me ask you, are you saying you could live with this threshold, but your general feeling is that this action, this entire action is not necessary in your opinion?
That's correct. That's how I feel.
All right. We can continue, but I'm gonna give Judy a chance.
If you, first, on the matter of urgency. There is supposedly, and I've heard this from several people, a solar facility planned for North Street somewhere. Nobody's seen a plan yet, to the best of my knowledge. The whole east side of North Street, any of the lots that are big enough to hold a solar facility have a portion in the aquifer overlay district. All of them, including my house. So I think it's very important to get something at least advertised for that surfaces. Secondly, one place that, this is all about environmental risk, obviously, and it's about overflow. And overflow into the aquifer, that's one place that the testing doesn't cover. And it's one place that's quite weak in the BES bylaw we submitted, which is why I hoped that you guys would be working on a more complete one, as opposed to just streamlining this and then working on a more complete one. But there needs to be much more work on containment and requirement on containment. We couldn't find anything quickly enough to get it into the committee's report. But the NFPA is solely about preventing fires. There's nothing in there about how to keep that stuff you use contained, or where it may go, or how to deal with it, or anything else. I'm sure the CMR doesn't have anything either. So this is an area that's just,
Judy, I just have a question about what, are you talking about? Oh, but like, because all that is not zoned commercial, industrial, I'm assuming it's all.
It's all
Agricultural,
AR1.
is that red?
No, on North Street, if we're.
North Street is.
Is red, so you're concerned about you're concerned about something at someone's home, like a battery storage, like Grant
No,
has
I'm
its own.
concerned about a solar battery. Of the battery
So-
storage.
You're concerned about a commercial scale system versus
But
something in
would
somebody's
never
house.
get be allowed to put in. If it's zoned agricultural in the first place,
There are two, we've had two. We've had two solar facilities, with batteries. There were applications, one on Chestnut Plain Road, one on North.
they both have batteries.
No, they do not.
Chestnut Plain Road, so
Didn't the fire chief testify when he was here about the. The risk and the exposure and leakage of the containment. Of this, they didn't see a bigger difference than a car fire, a Tesla that catches on fire, putting it out, all the chemicals coming out of that. I remember JB talking about that.
I remember as well, and I would rather not try to go off my memory,
Yeah.
but if we wanna have. Testimony from the fire chief, invite him back with specific questions. But, I mean, again, for this conversation on the basis of treated as hearsay, I've spoken to JP, and. He doesn't seem to have much in the way of concerns, but he's in general, but he's also not a Whately resident. I mean, he works for the town, but he doesn't live in town, so. But
So
I might
I
have,
was just asking is, you're concerned about battery storage and a solar field base, you're concerned that they're gonna put solar in and then do a battery storage, okay, that's what I was just, that makes sense.
essentially, these batteries are required as part of.
it is
In
going to
order
be.
to get the
Yeah.
incentives from the state.
I think that's true, and I actually personally believe that for solar facilities to be truly useful and helping communities resilient, they need to include storage. You might be interested to know, I will yield the floor back to you, I wanna put this fact out there, since we're talking now about utility scale storage in solar facilities. The solar facility on Christian
Lane.
Yes, Christian Lane, that is between Long Plain and State Road.
Mhm.
They report an annual solar production of 1.8 million megawatts, which basically averages to about 5 MWh of energy per day. Okay, 5 MWh per day. Now, again, at this time of the year, it's probably twice that,
Right.
right? But if they were storing a day's worth, an average day's worth of production, they would need about anywhere from 5 to 10 MWh of storage, which probably in today's technology could be done with a single, let's say 40-foot shipping container, maybe not a 20-foot shipping container, one of those. All right. When we need to think in these conversations, there's standalone BESS facilities that have no solar. They're just big batteries attached to the grid, kind of like Northfield Mountain is, except using earth, right?
Right.
It's exactly the same thing.
Same exact idea versus what, so if solar's gonna go in on North Road, which it could, because we allow it in AR1 and AR2. And they were going to put a battery storage in there to capture 1 or 2 days worth of production, then we're probably looking at. Again, it's just put an estimated physical footprint, maybe a 40-foot shipping container, maybe 2 if you wanna.
Right. And you're concerned about the leakage of, containment of that.
If that were
If
to,
that were to happen,
if that
sure.
were to have the so-called low probability, high impact event of thermal runaway. And that however that happened, it couldn't be adequately contained in one or more of those containers. So there are a lot of
Yeah,
ifs. So back to you.
the Chestnut Plain Road one. Had, I think, 4 storage containers as part of their battery storage.
Are you saying that it does, or it was originally spec'd to have? My understanding is that neither of the 2 solar facilities on Chestnut Plain that I know of, the one down by River Road Not the one, but I don't know anything much about the one by
We're
the,
talking Chestnut Plain, not Christian.
oh, I'm sorry, Christian Lane. I keep thinking Christian Lane.
Chestnut Plain,
Just,
Chestnut Plain.
down here, down well.
yeah,
You're saying that there's a solar facility there
No,
with
it said
battery
that one
storage?
was proposed.
Oh, okay,
It. It actually. They withdrew eventually. There was a lot of opposition for many reasons. One being that it was going to require. Cutting down a lot of trees on Chestnut Plain Road, which didn't go over too well, but anyway.
could we stay focused on this particular bylaw, because we're not talking generally
I'm
about.
talking the size of the facility.
Right,
That was at least 4 storage containers.
okay, all right.
We're not,
With technology that was several years ago,
and the solar panels were less powerful than too,
sure,
so,
sure.
but anyway. But I do think. This is something that the town cares about a great deal. And the containment, I mean, I've had comments from the public on the containment and the other with your previous meetings, so it's important. The other thing I would say is that I don't think the AG is going to look at an aquifer storage bylaw very critically, or because health and safety are exempt from the exclusion. So they would have a hard time with the undue restriction privilege or restriction. Overly restricted, because this is entirely health and safety. And it's one reason I think it's important to get into the bylaws, because if we go to fight, when you say that the town will turning over licensing to the state, the town has an appeal process and an input. And we need to have criteria in place to get our point across. And having a prohibition for the aquifer overlay district, I think is a critical part of that. They're gonna say, well, gee, if it's so important, why don't you restrict it now?
Okay, do you have any specific comments about the proposed amendment to your original language as shown on the screen?
Well, I did wanna point out that, the only commercial places that have, are in the aquifer overlay district are down at the bottom end of State Road. And lower end, I should say. And those are all pretty small parcels. So it's very hard to envision a large facility there on any of those. So I don't. So I think when it says backup systems for residential and commercial, it's hard to believe that there would be a large loss there, but I don't have any. I do think though that, picking number is awkward.
It is very awkward. I agree with that. There's no good basis, as far as I can tell, to do this. I wish the Energy Storage Systems Committee had really looked into this thoroughly. The draft, as you saw, came over with basically 70 kilowatt hours as the starting threshold when things like special permits are required. And I see, so I'm struggling. I'm sort of with you.
300, it's not like it's not like you stamp it and it can't be changed ever.
It's true.
So I think it's a technology change. We're gonna have to deal with this for a long time.
I do want us to be aware that, again, I wish Pete could be here to speak.
Yeah.
For himself, but he felt that going forward with zoning bylaws that we think are just sort of, we don't really think are good, like we're just trying to.
Yeah.
we were gonna change them within a year is not a good strategy. That really, we should be trying to provide a certain degree of certainty in that we've done our homework. And we think that this will stand some test of time.
I do think that's a fair point, and I think in most of our bylaws, that is realistic, right? But this, it's a little bit of a unknown territory, right? It's technology that's quickly evolving.
Right.
So what we think right now is realistic. It does give opportunity to individual homeowners and whatever. In a year, it really could be obsolete or just so restrictive now because of, you know, the battery storage
Right.
becomes more accessible, whatever. But I think that if we can put something that we all feel, or the majority of us feel relatively comfortable with, that has some good information behind it, takes into consideration some of the environmental concerns and the health and safety concerns, such as the aquifer overlay district, and put something out there that we feel good about. If we end up having to change it, it is what it is. Even if that's not best practices, if things change and technology changes in a year and we need to update this, at least we have something to update.
Yeah.
Versus talking about this for 6 more months and
Right. I don't
I think
think
we're
any
all
of us
so
wanna do
tired
that.
of it, yeah.
Don't really want to.
Just like whatever at this point.
Right.
I think Rusty has had their hand up for a
Oh, yeah,
while
I'm
too.
sorry, Rusty, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to let you guys know that the 28th, which is Thursday at 9 a.m., is the submission deadline. I see that in 2 places on the website. So I'm hoping they didn't get it wrong in 2 places.
You're kidding me. Wait, say that one more time.
Different.
The
I saw the 28th on their website.
28th for
Yes.
Tuesday, September 2nd.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at Monday the 1st. For the 2nd, I see the 29th.
Okay, all right. So
And I see the 29th in both places as well.
okay,
My bad.
all right, well, that,
That answers that.
I must have had an early edition. Okay, so back to the substance of this. So let me before we sort of wind this down, just a thought experiment. Because one of the things is that if we set this number too low, then then I just wanna think through, can we envisage any bad consequences? Because obviously if somebody needs to have battery storage that is greater than 300 by 301, 305, suddenly, and they happen to have a parcel in the Aquifer Protection District, now we've set a policy that will they will not be able to get a variance. I mean, there'll be no easy way around that. Because it's not like the ZBA will say, oh, we're not gonna give the ZBA any basis for
Right.
giving a variance.
I mean, based on what you have at your house.
Yeah.
And it seems pretty sufficient, right, for your needs, and
Yeah.
it's well under the 300 threshold.
Yeah.
I can't really imagine a situation where somebody needs the 305 or whatever. I think it's like,
Not residential. I don't think,
right,
the only question I have, and I would maybe defer to others, is. And I don't know about commercial businesses. But, I mean, I could imagine, I mean, we're not worrying about Yankee Candles factory on Christian
right,
Lane. Where they could literally want a 5 megawatt, the best as backup storage just for their facility. But they're not in the Aquifer Protection District anyway, so that's not relevant. So are there any scenarios we can think of where we're doing undue harm to a commercial enterprise by setting and I couldn't, I couldn't. No. We
I
know
also
where
think a
JD is.
commercial building is more likely if they need some kind of backup generator. I don't think they're putting in solar. I think
Yeah.
they're probably putting in something else, to be honest.
I'm going full solar just to lessen my electric.
Well, you're a big solar guy. You've
But
got solar.
Commercial is supply and demand, not supply and distribution.
Right,
So like you pay at your house, you pay a set fee. Then on the commercial side, you pay the rate at the highest draw of that day. Right.
okay,
So like my friend has an electric car, he has a building. He comes down from his job, he plugs in his electric car with a stage 2 charger, he gets $180 electric bill plugging his electric car in at his shop. Because it's draws quick, it only charges a short time, but it's the highest draw of the day, so he pays that the entire day.
Interesting, okay.
When he plugs that card in his house, he pays peanuts for it, but it's a commercial shop, he pays a fortune for it.
Interesting,
Yes.
okay, well, I didn't know that.
I mean, I'm all for this. One other data point, I gathered data on town offices. Town offices putting solar in. We're not in the aquifer protection district, but I was just thinking about case studies, right? So, the average, I looked at the last 12 months of electric bills for town offices. And the range is from like 100 kWh a day to about 280 kilowatt hours a day. But they, on average, town offices uses about 150 kWh per day. So they're gonna install a generator instead of battery storage, but 150 kWh battery storage system would be enough to
Right,
Power through the,
right, so the 300 is still
give them 2 days.
applicable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, I ran these various scenarios and
Sure.
sort of feel like we're not doing undue harm with 300, but I wouldn't wanna go below. I was sort of like Mike, I was thinking I could go up to one defensible number would be 600 kWh because that's the sort of the NFPA threshold. Which would be defensible, or 1 megawatt, but if people here feel lower is better and we
I
have.
think with the aquifer 300, it's fine,
Okay, all right.
it's more than,
So I'm gonna I'm recognizing you as a member of the public,
Yeah, that's fine.
so please.
No, I agree with Mike because it's like, it's one of those things you wanna be safe than sorry, just make it low, like you said.
But
it's
not too low, right?
Low,
I think
yeah,
it's fair.
There's a Goldilocks principle.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so then, I think everything else that all my other additions were, I figured, even though we all know kilowatt, maybe we all know what a kilowatt hour is. And what KWH stands for, but I just threw in a standard definition of kilowatt hour. So I ended up with this proposal. With those, the added definition of aggregate energy storage capacity, the one originally supplied by Judy for battery energy storage system, which is the same investment bylaw draft, and this addition of kilowatt hour. So, all right, Judy,
The kilowatt hour, the standard for definitions is to capitalize. But kilowatt hour is small k. And that's, I think, gonna create some confusion. I think you might be having more problem than you're solving by throwing that different.
what we will do, because that's at the level of a little bit of tweaking that can be done after, and I can ask town council.
I'll just take it out too, I mean, eventually, but yeah. But,
Because we're gonna be dealing with kilowatt hours and megawatt hours, I feel it will be important for the record to have those terms defined rather than just rely on, and I wanna be able to use the abbreviations. So you have to have a definition, you have to show how it's abbreviated. So then I could hear a motion to approve this. So what we're doing, we are obviously, we can approve a bylaw. And the only effect of that is that now we now have something ready to take to a public hearing. So maybe the motion that I would like to hear from one of my esteemed colleagues on the board, the motion to approve this bylaw as amended for a public hearing. And maybe I say, the motion is to approve this proposed revision to section 171.28.4 Act overlay district as amended for a public hearing. Will somebody,
I make a motion to
To do all that.
to revise as,
so you're going to make a motion
yeah,
to approve.
to approve as revised.
Okay, that's a better word. So you're gonna make a motion to schedule a public hearing
I'm gonna make a motion to schedule a public hearing
on this proposed revision
on this proposed revision
to the
to
aquifer
the
protection
Aquifer Protection
overlay
Overlay
district
District
as amended.
as amended.
The motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Mike and seconded by Laura. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Say aye. All right. Could have abstained, or you could have. All right,
Peer pressure.
so we've,
I'm just hoping that someone comes up with something that's amazing, that's you all have approved. That's
Good luck.
gonna be a great product that's non-polluting, that's gonna solve these problems and give us what we need, and this is gonna be an issue.
yeah,
Yeah, that does sound nice.
That's what I want.
The problem with that is,
I read about one the other day. I'll see
Someone's
if I can
going to.
find the article.
They're gonna get energy from potato.
all right. So let's now, so that we've made the motions, the second has been approved. So now let's just talk about next steps. So first of all, we're all gonna let's talk about the scheduling of the public hearing. Because we've agreed that it's going to be on Wednesday, September 17th. Let's confirm. Actually, let me just check the town, didn't check the Whately town calendar.
that meeting will be here.
Yes. So let's just look at,
What are the quorum requirements for a town meeting, a special town meeting, I did say,
So, quorum,
I don't know.
it's not, really? Wow.
All right, so at the moment, there is nothing on the town calendar on September 17th, so we've passed. Check that off. So when would you all like to do this? It's not likely to be a long public hearing, right? It's not it'll involve just a little bit of explanation why we're doing this.
A little bit later than 5:30 would be good for me.
Maybe 6 o'clock,
That's six
That's
works
fair.
for me, yeah.
to 6 p.m. Okay, so we're going to schedule a public hearing for 6 p.m. and it'll be in person and via Zoom on Wednesday, September 17th. And what will happen next is I will work with Gwen to draft a legal ad. Gwen, have you yet gone through the process with the ZBA of drafting any legal ads for the Greenfield Reporter
I mean, I
for public
submitted,
hearings?
yeah, I submitted it, Deborah had one
Okay.
ready for me. 'Cause it
Okay,
was
so
the
she
proper time.
prepared the
Yeah.
text
Yeah,
and you were able to then deal with the Greenfield
Yeah,
Reporter,
the next-
given the text.
yeah.
Okay.
So I did.
I'm gonna do a little bit more iteration with you outside of this meeting on the
Okay.
text.
Okay,
Because ultimately, we want you to be able to, on the basis of a meeting like this and
Yeah.
knowing the substance, to do your own draft. You do a first, the ideal future is you do the first draft of the legal ad
right,
and send it around for all of us to review and send comments back to. That would be
Okay.
the ideal. This will not happen this first time.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll do an initial draft, I'll send it to you. And then. Okay, all right, and so you should all be on the lookout for a draft legal ad. Given that we need to get it to the recorder by 9 AM on
Friday.
August 29th. All right, so Gwen. Once you and I have agreed on the final language of the legal ad,
right.
then the ball will be in your court
It's
to
in
take it to the Greenfield.
the- Okay,
Okay, and you know your deadline,
yeah,
because all hell breaks loose if we miss 8:29 at 9 AM.
yeah. I will put it in my.
I mean, maybe not all hell breaks, so we still have a little bit of wiggle room if necessary, but.
Okay,
Okay.
the 29th. So.
Very good.
And then-
Good, so that I don't have to worry about after tonight going home and drafting a legal ad. Work on it.
Grant
Yes, Judith.
might want to review with Gwen after the meeting, all the mailings that have to go out,
Yeah.
because it's a zoning bylaw.
Yes, yes, which is also true for the ZBA, is that correct, when they do public? But I will make sure that all the abutter towns, ZBA public hearings have to notify abutters, but maybe they don't.
They don't do the neighboring towns and the
Right,
housing department and all of that.
I will make sure that.
That's specific
That's-
zoning.
So that's just as another reminder that. You will also be responsible, well, so this is zoning bylaw, so we don't have any abutters per se, no abutting. Property owners to notify, but there are a set of physical letters. That you will need to, so I'll go over this with you, but here live in this meeting.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you text of these legal ads. These are examples that I've received from other towns. We are obliged, whenever we do public hearings on zoning bylaw amendments,
Okay,
to notify the planning boards of abutting towns, and there are a few other stakeholders. And we have to do that by sending physical letter with the ad on it
right,
in the mail.
right.
All right, and you will need to keep track of the date on which you mailed those letters,
Okay,
all right?
yeah.
All right.
So if
I'm
I
gonna make
can butt in here again, because I think I'm involved in this process as well. So specifically with the abutter notices, and I don't know if the same is true about like a general hearing, if and those things, but I'm the one who's physically mailing the like abutter notices, and anything that goes out as physical mail is my job because Gwen is not in the office as often as I am. So I did do the last round of abutter notices for the ZBA for 7 River Road. I did record the date that those went out. But Pete would like us to do specifically like a butter notices and probably all notices if possible on a postcard because it's going to save us a whole ton of money and a lot of paper, good for the environment, good for the wallet. Gwen, I will send you the template that we have currently for a butter notices. And then you should be able to adapt that pretty easily to any like type of public hearing notice or other thing you might need to do by mail.
Okay, so for certain kinds of public hearings, like site plan reviews that the planning board does, there are literally abutters to the parcel of interest, and
Right,
letters have to be mailed to those abutters.
right.
A zoning bylaw has doesn't have abutters in that sense.
Yeah.
However, we have to communicate with abutting towns like Conway,
Yeah.
like Deerfield, all right? So they're different concepts of abutters.
Yeah, Rusty, you might just check with Pete that the zoning notices should go with postcards too, because they're far fewer. And I've never seen one, I don't know.
Either way.
Usually-
You're welcome to. I'm sure he's open to hearing about it. My understanding is that like the actual form of the mail notice is not specifically regulated. It is just important that a paper notice be mailed to the address. But like I said, I think Pete's in again tomorrow. And I'm sure he'd be happy to check with you.
Okay, all right, so communicate that information to Gwen, but so the concept is we're gonna try to do all of our. Physical mailings
Yeah,
using not 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper and envelopes, but do it via postcards. I guess the text gets scaled down and you need a microfiche reader or something to read the text or something. Okay, all right. So I think we are done with the item on battery energy storage systems in the aquifer protection overlay district. Now, the next topic would be a general discussion of battery energy storage systems. I'm I'm open to doing that. However, I wanna, we've tried to say we're going to usually wrap up by 7. We put a bunch of time in. Rusty has gathered comments from everybody on the ES3C draft, including things that he circulated a memo, but that only went out yesterday. So it could be that it makes sense for us to just pick up on battery energy storage systems in general at our next regular meeting. Assuming that we're going to, we would have a public hearing in the middle of September, a regular meeting at the end of September, which I think actually would be like the next week.
Or we could push it till the 29th or 30th, which is the
So-
following week.
Because what I think we can on the board all agree to, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at all the comments people had on the general battery energy storage bylaw, I don't see that there's any consensus on the board to basically just somehow throw a bylaw into special town meeting. We're gonna work on it over. We're gonna take the time that we need to take to do it right. Am I
Yeah, I don't see how we
Yeah.
have it done in the next couple of weeks, so.
right?
I think we'll all be here till 9 o'clock tonight. We tried to do that and that's not,
No,
it's not my intention.
okay,
I think they'd be quite happy to call a special town meeting. You were done at some of the time.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's kind of
that's the
what we've
point.
been planning.
Mhm.
fair enough. Okay,
Hey, Brent,
Yes.
is the select board, are they going back to their Tuesday schedule now that summer's over?
I think they may, but like September, I still see
I see
the
it,
select board on the 24th.
I see it all the way out to the end of the year, there are Wednesdays, but.
So I don't know
it's
how-
Gonna be a conflict, finance committee with me.
What being on Tuesdays?
We meet on Wednesdays, Tuesdays, the finance committee.
So do you meet on Tuesday, September 30th?
No, I'm just saying, like, it's okay right now, but when we get to the end of the year, we meet on Tuesdays.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
When we have VIPs on our board who serve the town in other ways, we find a way to make it all work. Okay, so for the time being, our next regularly scheduled planning board meeting is on Tuesday, September 30th. Is that still workable
yes,
at the usual 5:30 or? I mean, I
That's-
hesitate to start regularly moving our meeting to a 6 PM start and then ending at 7:30.
Mhm. That's the end of the fiscal year for me at work, so depending on how the day goes, I may or may not make it, but I'll do my best.
Okay, all right,
5:30 still.
5:30.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so we're going to pass over topic 5 on battery energy storage systems. So give everyone some more time to read everyone else's comments, think about it, think a little bit about the discussion we had tonight about thresholds, because the memo that I sent around proposed a certain regime, which is to say, there's a threshold that says below this energy storage capacity, we treat battery storage as exempt from regulation. So call that the exempt
Mhm.
tiers. You can call that tier 0. There's a tier 1, which is up between the exempt threshold and the next higher number. We do some regular, more or less lightweight regulation. And then there's a bigger tier over which it's basically full. This is the regime or structure that Medway used. Medway had an exemption threshold and I thought, in retrospect, it's way too low. They said tier 1 was anywhere in town as of right with just administrative review, so no special permits, nothing fancy like that. And then tier 2 was full review, site plan review, permits. So I'm proposing, and I try to explain that in the memo, my rationale, but I'd like to give you guys a chance to look it over. There's no problem with open meeting law for any of you to interact with me one-on-one via email. If you have questions or
Okay.
don't understand something, that is perfectly acceptable. We're just not deliberately in one. So I'd like to then move to items not anticipated and any other wrap-up business.
I have one quick thing about,
Oh, still on
something
this
that we
topic.
discussed about the ag committee.
Oh, yes,
We'll probably meet sometime late September, early October again.
okay,
I would, not to have hearsay, but the general consensus is gonna be to find a way to keep them just
Okay.
doing what they're doing, if that makes sense.
okay.
That's the
I'm
vibe,
just
that's
gonna-
just the vibe I got,
Okay.
so just.
I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay, yep,
Tonight, thank you.
yep,
So, I'm gonna just heads up, I'm gonna send you, forward an email with a link to a survey. You know, the Citizens Planner Training Cooperative, CPTC, offers various training workshops. They're done as webinars. They have a very minimal registration fee for them, which we reimburse. There's a lot of good stuff. And Rusty, I see your hand, I'll recognize you in a second, Rusty. But there's been a call for feedback on topics of interest. So look for an email, it'll have a link to a survey where they'd like you to complete it by September 15th to provide input on training you might like at relatively low reimbursable cost. Rusty,
Yes, I want to really plug this. It's recommended by FERCog. Everybody I've spoken to looking for resources to help us understand how our bylaws intersect with state law. This is the number one resource they give. I filled out the survey today to say that I'd like to see training around bylaws to do with technology, specifically solar and battery. And when I met with FERCog a little while ago, they said they were looking into that as well. So I just want to really plug that because I think, especially in this instance, it could be a great resource.
thank you, Rusty. Okay, so look for that. I noticed Rusty has now begun scanning and circulating. You circulated to all members of the board these letters of public hearings from others.
You asked me to send it just to the planning board account, but I can send it to the
Oh.
entire board.
Oh, I guess, I'm sorry, because I just saw it earlier today, so I didn't note that detail. But I'll just remind the board, just like we send notices to abutting planning boards about our zoning thing, public hearings, neighboring towns send them to us. I look at them generally. It seems like it has not, there's no business for us, so I usually don't bother the board with those details. And I think that's it. We've settled the issue of our next meeting date. Are there any other topics from anybody else? Okay. Then I could hear a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
second.
The motion has been made by Laura, seconded by Mike. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.